Recording in process. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Keys to the Jet podcast. I'm your host, Red. I couldn't leave you. I couldn't leave you empty-handed for the year. I put up a post that we weren't going to do any other episodes, but here I am doing another episode just for you. Thank you for everybody who's been with us this entire time since we started. If you're new here, I'm Red. This is a podcast about aviation, military life, and whatever the hell else I want to talk about, but mostly airplanes and stuff. I'm an airplane nerd, and you know what? You guys seem to be too. And today's episode is one of those strap in, we're going to be here a while kind of shows. You know what I mean? This is not just a quick rundown of what's going on. This is kind of a long form one. The coffee refill stand around the hangar and complain episode. Because the skies, and actually you can't have coffee in a hangar, so don't even try it. Unless it's in a spill-proof container. Yeah, because the sky's been busy. The system's been strained. Aviation as a whole is doing that whole thing where it smiles politely while screaming. Today, I'm going to be covering the biggest U.S. and global aviation and military aviation. Obviously, I can't talk still. Headlines from the last couple of weeks, and we're going to explain what happened. You know what I mean? Not just give you like, oh, hey, man, this is what happened, fucking... but, actually try to take you through why it happened and why it matters to anyone who works around airplanes, flies in them, or just trusts them not to fall out of the sky. And then we'll lighten it up along the way, because if we didn't laugh at this stuff, we'd be in therapy together. So let's get into it. Aviation right now feels tired, not long shift tired. I'm talking about that deep institutional fatigue where systems technically still work, but everyone involved has that look like they're triple checking something they never used to worry about. Flights are full, crews are short, airspace is crowded, military and civilian operations are overlapping more than ever, and the margin for error is getting thinner. That brings us to the accident that nobody wants to talk about, but everyone needs to understand. Earlier this year, near Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C., an Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter collided midair with an American Airlines regional jet operating a scheduled passenger flight. 67 people lost their lives, and for months, we got the standard aviation response. Investigation's ongoing. No conclusions yet. Lots of careful wording. Now the government has officially admitted fault. And what's important here is that this wasn't pinned on one pilot or one controller. This was a systems failure. The airspace around D.C. is some of the most complex in the world. You got civilian airliners, military helicopters, law enforcement aircraft, medevac flights, VIP transports, all stacked into a relatively small chunk of sky. The system relies on strict altitude separation, precise coordination, and very clear expectation about who is where and why. What investigators found was that those expectations weren't as solid as everyone assumed. Communication between the helicopter crew and air traffic control wasn't restrictive enough. Military flight procedures near civilian arrival corridors relied too heavily on assumptions. Assumptions that ATC would vector airliners around military traffic. Assumptions that helicopters would remain clear of approach paths. Assumptions that worked right up until the moment they didn't. This wasn't an unusual day. This was routine traffic, and that's the scariest part. The safeguards that were supposed to prevent this exact scenario didn't fail dramatically. They eroded quietly. Congress responded fast. New restrictions were pushed through, limiting military helicopter operations near major civilian airports. Some people see this as overreach. Others see it as overdue. But here's the reality: aluminum, or aluminium if you're English, at 150 knots does not care about tradition, rank, or mission type. Shared airspace is shared responsibility. Aviation accidents rarely happen because someone is reckless. They happen because everyone thinks someone else has it covered. And that phrase, "I thought they were," has killed more people than any mechanical failure ever will. Now let's talk about the systems that's supposed to prevent that kind of thing from happening in the air or happening in the first place. Air traffic control. The FAA recently announced it's accelerating a multi-billion-dollar modernization of the U.S. air traffic control system, new radar infrastructure, upgraded communications, better redundancy. And to be clear, this isn't innovation. This is long overdue replacement. Controllers today are managing modern traffic volumes with systems that were designed for a completely different era. Fewer airplanes, less congestion, no drones, minimal military civilian overlap. Over the last year, we've seen radar outages, communication failures, and staffing shortages forcing nationwide delays. During the government shutdown, controllers were required to work unpaid. Towers were operating below minimum staffing levels, not because people didn't care, but because people were simply weren't enough, not because people didn't care, but because there simply weren't enough qualified controllers to go around. I can't speak. Air traffic control is one of the most experience dependent jobs in aviation. You don't just hire someone and put them in position. Training takes years, certification takes years, and when experienced controllers retire or burn out, that knowledge leaves with them. New screens don't replace instinct, and instinct takes decades to build. The FAA knows this. That's why the push to modernize isn't just about hardware, it's about stabilizing a system that's under more pressure than it was ever designed to handle. Now, if you want proof that the pressure is real, let's talk about near misses. Over the last 2 weeks, multiple reports surfaced about U.S. Air Force aircraft narrowly avoiding midair collisions with civilian planes in Caribbean airspace. One involved a JetBlue passenger flight, another involved a business jet. According to reporting, the military aircraft involved were operating without active transponders while flying in airspace also used by civilian traffic. Transponders aren't optional vibes. They tell air traffic control and other aircraft where you are, how high you are, and what you are doing. Civilian collision avoidance systems like TCAS rely on that information. When it's missing, those systems have less time and less accuracy to work with. And yes, military aircraft sometimes operate without transponders for operational reasons. We get that. But when that happens in shared international airspace, the risk goes way up. And in these cases, collision avoidance systems and last second maneuvering prevented disaster. But near misses are warnings. They're aviation tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey man, let's fix it. We got to fix it." The problem is near misses don't usually make headlines. They happen quietly. Two crews go home knowing they were closer than anyone ever should be. Stack enough of those moments and eventually you don't get a warning anymore. You get a crash. And meanwhile, not everyone is getting a second chance. In Russia, an Antonov An-22 military transport aircraft crashed during a test flight, killing all aboard. The An-22 is one of the largest turboprop aircraft ever built. Designed during the Cold War to move massive loads over long distances, aircraft of that age come with serious challenges: structural fatigue, corrosion, outdated systems, limited spare parts. Test flights are inherently dangerous. They're when aircraft are pushed outside normal operating envelopes, and with older airframes, problems escalate fast. This crash highlights a global issue many militaries face And that's keeping aging fleets operational while balancing cost, safety, and capability. Now, let's pivot to the future. Because aviation isn't just breaking things, it's building some wild new capabilities. Australia and Boeing recently conducted a test where the MQ-28 Ghost Bat unmanned aircraft fired an AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missile. This is a huge milestone. The MQ-28 designed as a loyal wingman flying alongside crewed fighters, sharing sensor data, performing reconnaissance, electronic warfare, now potentially engaging airborne targets. This isn't a drone dropping a bomb on a strategic target. This is unmanned air-to-air combat. That changes doctrine. It changes training. It changes how air wars are fought, and it changes maintenance. Because now you're not just fixing hardware, you're fixing software, data links, and autonomy logic. Ooh, ASMR. Do it again. The jet just doesn't break anymore. It thinks wrong. Crazy stuff going on out there. Ghost bat, huh? I need to look into that. I don't even know what it is. The Navy, meanwhile, has been dealing with the unforgiving side of aviation. They recently completed deep water recovery of an FA-18F Super Hornet and an MH-60R Seahawk from the South China Sea after a crash back in October. One of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Weather, motion fatigue, darkness. How often do you think sharks, see the aircraft carriers and are like, holy shit, that's a big ass boat? Holy shit, that's a big boat. Or do you think like there's a megalodon underneath it that's like, yeah, the only way I'm gonna stay not seen in this world is if I swim underneath this aircraft carrier? Think about it. Have you ever seen a megalodon? Me neither. Where are they? Underneath tankers and underneath aircraft carriers, so they don't get seen. Anyways, recovering those aircraft wasn't just about cleanup. Modern military aircraft contain sensitive technology. Leaving them on the sea floor, especially in contested regions, risks intelligence compromise. Recovery also allows investigators to physically examine wreckage and understand what went wrong. And that takes us in. And speaking of aircraft with complicated histories, Navy investigation confirmed that known V 22 Osprey safety issues were allowed to persist for years. Well, of course they were. You gotta get your sorties, dude. Gotta get your sorties in the air, dog. The V 22 is an incredibly complex aircraft combining helicopter and airplane characteristics. That complexity has always come with maintenance and operational challenges. Investigators found that warnings from maintainers and operators weren't always acted on quickly, and fixes were delayed. Some corrective actions won't be fully implemented until the 20s. Aviation doesn't punish arrogance immediately, it waits. And when it collects, it collects. Now, let's all take a breather before we spiral into existential dread and talk about one of the coolest, most important aircraft ever built. Yeah, we're going to go into talking about an X-plane. I enjoy talking about X-planes because, well, more people should talk about X-planes because without X-planes, we wouldn't have the... Whoa, that's ASMR for you guys. I'm not editing that out, just so you know. All right? I'm a fucking pig. You should hear me burp. The X-15, the North American X-15, wasn't really an airplane. It was a rocket with wings and a very casual attitude toward danger. Man, every time I start talking on here to you guys, dude, I start getting like a runny nose kind of thing going on here. You know what I mean? Where I'm like talking like this, like talking to you guys like this, and then my nose gets all like weird, and then I gotta step away for a second and then sniff like this. Crazy. It's freaking bonkers. Anyways, powered by the XLR-99 rocket engine, producing about 57,000 pounds of thrust, it burned fuel for roughly 90 seconds, and at that time accelerated over Mach 6.7 and climbed above 350,000 feet. That's space. Actual space. The X-15 was dropped from B-52. B-52 ignited its engine and pointed itself toward the edge of the atmosphere. You know what? Let me talk about a B-52 for a second. I think you guys have heard the story for a long time, but when I was in the military, I was refueling my airplane. This freaking old dude who'd been working POL, like around fuel for a long time, came up. And he kind of sounded like Bill Cosby, so I kind of put it like Bill Cosby. He's like, I thought I saw me a B-52. It was like a real cloudy day in Florida. He's like, I think I seen me a B-52 flying up there. And I was like, no, there's no B-52 flying up there. He's like, you can tell it's a B-52 because it flies with the nose down and it disappeared in the jet stream. I was like, cool, man. I gotta go refuel this airplane over here. It's not gonna refuel itself, dude. You know what I'm saying? He's like, if you could tell it's a B-52, you know what I mean? It's one of my favorite airplanes. And I seen it. It disappeared in the clouds with the jet stream. And I was like, man, I mean, that's kind of cool. That's really kind of cool. And then I was like, yeah, hey, I'm gonna go over here. And he's like, that. Well, where are you going? Yeah, where you going? I was like, I gotta go. You know what I mean? So see ya. Thanks. Yeah, yeah, that's what he said. Anyways, let's get back into this X-15 here. Sniff. It didn't have modern fly-by-wire systems. It's the X-15. Here, you want me to? I can tell this I can talk like that, dude, if you want me to. It didn't have digital flight computers. It used reaction control thrusters to maneuver when the air got too thin for control surfaces to work. I just can't do that. I mean, I could. The program flew 199 missions with 12 pilots, names like Neil Armstrong, Joe Engle, and Bob White. Joe Engle flew the X-15 high enough and often enough to earn astronaut wings without ever riding a rocket into orbit. X-15 taught us about hypersonic aerodynamics, re-entry heating, space navigation, and human tolerance to extreme acceleration. It also killed a pilot, Mike Adams, during a hypersonic re-entry when the aircraft entered a spin and broke apart. X-planes don't care about bravery. They care about margins. Everything we do in aerospace today exists because programs like the X-15 was progress and risk in its purest form. All right. Reset. I was going to do this stupid thing with I was going to do this stupid thing with the weather with Airman Snuffy. All right, sir. Today, let's go to Airman Snuffy. Right here. Yeah. Alright, sir. Today's weather is awful. It's windy and dusty everywhere and visibly technically legal. With a high of why did I re-enlist and a low of finances closed. There's a chance of DUI tonight. And it's extremely high. Someone already got pulled over. And shop at update. There are tornadoes. The monsters are warm. That, you know what? I'm never doing that again. That was just honestly stupid. But you know what? You know what you should do? You should go to the shop at and get yourself some tornadoes and get yourself a monster. And if they don't have it, run. Just run or trot because you don't want to do PT. When you zoom out, you know what? I'm going to refine that weather report for you from Airman Snuffy Dude. I'm going to make it. It's going to be good. You're going to be next week. Next week is going to be better. I promise you. This one was just like a impromptu, like, maybe can I try this? You know what I mean? Like, but I'll come up with a better voice, better weather report from a different base. Probably like Shepherd. You know what I mean? Something like that. Some stuff like that. All right. Well, listen, when you zoom out, all of these stories connect. Congested airspace, aging infrastructure, staffing shortages, rapid technological change, autonomous systems burn out people holding together the safest system in the world. Aviation isn't broken, but it is under pressure, and pressure reveals weaknesses. That's why we talk about this stuff here. Not to scare you, to explain it, because aviation doesn't fail loudly. It whispers. It whispers. And lately, it's been whispering a lot. All right. You know what? Let's get into, that was pretty good. Let's go into this day in aviation, and then we'll get into like some Air Force time stuff, and then we'll wrap it up, man. You know what I mean? Pardon me. Keep it a little short because it's only me talking to you. You know, I'm not interviewing anybody. So, yeah, let's go into this day in aviation. Let's see what we've got going on for you here. 18 December 1972. On the first night of Operation Linebacker, Staff Sergeant Samuel Olin Turner, United States Air Force, was gunner aboard Boeing B-52D, saw a supersonic MiG-21 interceptor approaching the bomber from below and behind, with a second interceptor following at a distance. As the Mach 2 fighter made a firing pass, Turner directed the 4 Browning AN M3 50 caliber machine guns at the bomber's tail turret at the enemy fighter and opened fire. In a single 6.8 second burst, he expended 694 rounds of ammunition. He saw a gigantic explosion to the rear of the aircraft. Master Sergeant Louis E. LeBlanc, the gunner on another B-52, had also seen the MiG-21 and confirmed Turner's kill. Staff Sergeant Turner was the first B-52 gunner to be officially credited with shooting down an enemy fighter and the first aerial gunner to shoot down an enemy aircraft since the Korean War. He was awarded the Silver Star. Congratulations, sir. That's freaking awesome. Way to protect your... It's pretty cool. I didn't know that B-52 had guns in the back. I had no idea. Let's see. December 18, 1969, Colonel Joseph William Rogers, and Major Gary Heidelbaugh were flying Lockheed SR-71 to test a new system installation, followed by a training mission. The functional tests had gone well, and the Blackbird rendezvoused with KC-130 tanker before proceeding the mission. After coming off the tanker, Colonel Rogers radioed to Regional Air Traffic Control for permission to climb through all flight levels 3,000 feet, or flight level 60. A short transcript of the radio and intercom transmission. Let's see. When Colonel Rogers advanced the SR-71 throttles to go into the afterburner for the climb, the compressor sections of both engines stalled. Oh, dude, that sucks. The SR-71 slowed abruptly and then violently pitched upward. Rogers said, "Let's go," and both men ejected from the out-of-control airplane. Rogers and Heidelbaugh safely parachuted to the ground. 617953, which is the aircraft number, crashed near Shoshone, California, and was totally destroyed by the crash and fire that followed. The accident investigation determined that a small roll of 2-inch wide duct tape was lodged inside one of the tubes of the airplane's pitot-static system. When the new system had been installed, it required that the pitot-static tubing be modified and rerouted. A technician apparently replaced a roll of duct tape inside an open section of tubing to prevent entry of dirt or foreign objects, and when the tubing was reassembled, this makeshift plug was not removed. Post-crash testing showed that the plug did not totally close off airflow, but it had decreased it, causing the altimeter to read too high and the airspeed indicator too fast. The normal test of this pitot-static system following the modification did not reveal the problem. You know what, dude? Next episode, I'm going to do about FOD. And this one is a big one. This one right here, FOD. FO. Foreign objects damage, and it creates crashes, and it kills people, dude. That's my next episode. Our next episode, we're going to talk about FOD. We're going to talk about safety. When Rogers advanced throttle, he was approximately 27,000 feet rather than the indicated 25,000 feet. He was also about 30 miles per hour slower than indicated. Damn, dude, that wreckage looks crazy. Huh. This is a crazy looking helicopter. You should look it up, dude. 18 December 1953. Sikorsky chief test pilot Jimmy Viner and co-pilot Eddie or James made the first flight of Sikorsky XHR2S-1, Sikorsky model S56. It looks like a weird freaking thing. It was a prototype assault and heavy lift helicopter for the United States Navy and Marine Corps. It was later adopted by the U.S. Army as the H-37 Mojave. I mean, that's kind of cool. It looks really weird, though. All right. Let's see here. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Anyways, dude, I got to go take a piss real quick. I'll be right back. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You know what? After this, we're moving to a different we're not doing this. We're not doing this. All right, you know what? I'm back. I found the flaw of this freaking thing. I found the flaw of this system that I'm using here. If I found it, and it's freaking stupid. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I forgot what I was saying after I came back from the bathroom to wash my hands. I did wash my hands. Thank you very much. All right, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you, everyone, for following us for the last few years. Thank you for listening, doing what you're doing. I'm coming out with I'm seriously going to drop this t-shirt. It's a Trash Hollow t-shirt. I made the design or had help making the design. It's pretty cool. It's a C-130 dumping trash in a desert. It says Trash Hauler. It's got the waste management colors with K2J on the side of the aircraft. Not WM, but the aircraft is green and it looks like a waste management truck. It's funny. Thank you to our patrons. We love you. I love you. Of course, I'm the only one doing this here grind for right now. Let's see. Shout out to our patrons: Gregory, the Mayor, Freaky Freeland, Fuck You Cody, and Goodyear. I love you guys. Thank you so much for support. Thank you so much. And if you want to join them, it's only $5 bucks. You can go to patreon.com/Keys of the Jet podcast. And yeah, it'd be awesome. All right, you guys. I love you. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go look into getting rid of this thing that I'm using now, which is riverside.com or .fm. And I'm going back to StreamYard because I can actually get up and pause it rather than stopping and then having to put all of the clips together later. So, yeah. StreamYard's way better, dude. I'm out of this motherfucker. All right. I love you. Bye.